Thank you for joining us for this episode of our In Conversation series. The aim of the series is to provide an insight on topical issues relevant to higher education from a university perspective. This is part of our Discover University programme. We encourage you to follow our Twitter handle at DiscoverUniEXE, which provides regular updates for teachers and advisors. My name is Karl. I'm the school's relation manager. I'm joined today by Mark Sawyer, who is our head of Wellbeing and Welfare. Each session will aim to focus on a different theme, and this week we're looking at the restart of our academic year and the support available from our wellbeing services. So hi Mark, thanks so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Hello, Karl.
Hello. We're going to start with the first broad question, which is looking at what you feel will be the main differences in the student experience from a wellbeing perspective for new students starting university in September.
Well, Karl, I think it's always a challenge managing the transition from a familiar home environment to one where students might be living for the first time away from home and in a very different area. But I think this year it's going to be particularly different for students. I think the emotional impact of COVID-19 is still very much with everyone. We know that there are increased levels of concern, particularly anxiety, and some students may be attending here with sad or upsetting memories of the past few months of lockdown. They might even have seen relatives struggle with illness in some way, or their families might have experienced significant financial instability as a result of lockdown. We also know that for students with disabilities or pre-existing health conditions or mental health difficulties, lockdown has sometimes caused even greater challenges. So coming away from home this year might feel particularly daunting for students. And while some students may feel this way, it's quite likely that other students will be just excited to be away from home for the first time. But for some students, it's going to be a little bit more tricky. I think the other area where students might have some additional challenges this year is about a return to study after many unexpected months away from learning. They may be even more anxious about coming back to study. Can they cope? What's the learning experience going to be like? And I think additionally, this year, the teaching and learning environment is perhaps going to be a little bit different to usual. We're talking here about delivering blended learning, and the university is prioritising student safety. And so we'll be offering a lot of online lectures and maybe a lot fewer face-to-face sessions. So engaging with studies might just prove more of a challenge initially. And I think also getting to know new people, which we know is an essential part of becoming a student, joining clubs and societies, and going to the gym, going out to restaurants and cafes, all these usual student activities where students get to know each other and to become friends, perhaps in the early weeks of studying at Exeter. These things may be a little bit more difficult this year than usual. A lot of the induction events and getting to know each other might actually be online through social media channels, etc. So I think it's going to be a bit different. I think the campus experience is going to be exciting, but it will also be different. We are asking students to protect themselves and each other from COVID-19. So I think there will be different ways and restrictions in coming onto campus, and also living in our halls of residence. It may also be a little bit different there as well. It may be less easy to have induction events where everybody's all together all the time. And so I think it's going to be really important for students to find the channels which we're providing as a university to reduce that sense of aloneness at a time when we are asking students to maybe not always be in the large groups they like to naturally gravitate to at the beginning of their time at university.
So looking at that, what support can students expect to receive from our wellbeing services during this time?
There is lots of support available. Our wellbeing team here realise how difficult it is to study if you have anything on your mind. We have lots of help available. We've got a large team of mental health advisors, of disability practitioners, of learning support staff and psychological therapists. And we're all here to help students who are finding things difficult in any way. What we really want to say to students is, no problem is too small for us. We understand that coming to university is a big challenge, and sometimes we need a bit of help in the early stages just to get going with university life. It's also interesting to know that we've got a lot of information and advice on our web pages, and if students wish to go to exeter.ac.uk coronavirus wellbeing, there's a stack of top tips on how to keep well in body and mind and spirit, and how to stay safe. So we have online information, but we also offer counselling and other talking treatments, and we also have a welfare team who can help students with any crises or emergencies. One thing which I'd also like to mention is that we have a dedicated, what we call Residence Life team, which is a team of student mentors and university staff. And these staff are available in halls of residence to support students who are new to halls, new to living in a different environment in university accommodation. And this year, we're extending the range of support available for students out of hours from our welfare team. So I think we're trying really hard to second guess that students may feel it's a particular challenge coming this year, and to make sure that we've got staff on hand all the time to give support.
And the services you mentioned there, they're all based on campus?
Absolutely. So we have a wellbeing centre, and students are very welcome to access us at any time. They can either ring us up or they can email us online. And we also have practitioners in the halls of residence who will be going around in some way or offering virtual drop-ins to offer support to students in halls.
Okay. So looking at students at the moment, will be waiting. Some will have received their results if they did IB, but some of them will be waiting for their A-level results coming up in the next week or so. How can they prepare for the start of the academic year?
So from a sort of a well-being point of view, I think it's really important that when students arrive, that they remember everyone is likely to be feeling just as anxious or apprehensive as they are. Remember that there'll be good days and difficult days, and that coming to university is actually a process of transition. It's not uncommon for the transition into university to take the best part of a year, but certainly the first few weeks can be very up and down. Sometimes students might feel homesick, entirely natural. Who wouldn't feel homesick at a time of moving away from home, particularly for the first time? And if it helps, I would always encourage students to talk to us about how they're feeling, and indeed to get in touch with their families. And I think it's really important that carers and students talk to each other before they come here to say how they're going to keep in touch over those first few weeks of transitioning into the university. I think also in terms of settling into the university, it's really important that students don't simply try to fit in with everybody who they meet. Sometimes it can take time to find those friends who students feel they fit better with and are perhaps more interested in the way of the issues that they're interested in. So I would always encourage students not to feel that if they haven't made a best friend within the first few days, not to worry. It takes time, and it's really worthwhile allowing yourself that space to join in with new activities, but to reflect carefully on the friends that you want to make, because once you establish your friendship group here, it's quite likely that you'll keep it for most of your time at university, and you want to make sure that they're the people that you would like to hang out with. I think also in terms of preparing, it's important to say that if you've got any support needs, please make sure you've talked those through with wellbeing services before you come here. We have a range of ways of helping students to settle in at university, and we want you to feel safe and supported, and that you've got somewhere to go if anything's unclear to you. So please do let your course programs and wellbeing services know if you've got any particular concerns or queries. We usually find that if students tell us things early on, we can help them out with any concerns, and things can go away. And if we don't sort them out early, then things just sometimes get bottled up and become slightly overwhelming. The other thing I would say finally is I think it's really important before students come to university to read as much as they can about their programme of study and to ask any questions of the academic team or support staff for their programme before they get here. Again, if there are any concerns, they tend to get magnified in our heads if we don't ask the questions, and all the university staff are very keen to settle students in quickly and to help them feel that they are part of a learning community where they're going to feel supported. So please do contact any of us if you have any concerns.
You've touched on this already, but I want to just clarify again. Are there any particular circumstances where students should be contacting the Wellbeing services before they actually come onto campus, so before they start in September?
Yes, I think I would say that if students have any known sort of pre-existing health conditions or disabilities, or perhaps a mental health issue, anything which is likely to be a bit of an additional challenge when they arrive at university, we would advise students to get in touch with Wellbeing services well in advance of their coming here. If students do that, we can usually plan with them what they would like in terms of support. So if they're coming into university accommodation, we can make any adjustments to that accommodation if they have particular needs. If they've got any learning support needs, but maybe they need particular arrangements for their assessments, we can arrange what we call an individual learning plan, which is effectively a document we prepare for the colleges to say, this particular student has these particular concerns and we would recommend these adjustments to facilitate their learning. So any student with any pre-existing condition, we would always advise them to get in touch with us well in advance, but if that's not possible, certainly as soon as they arrive, and we will do our best to make sure that arrangements are in place to support them in their studies.
And of course, it's probably important to say that any contact they make will be viewed independently to the actual application process. So it won't have an impact on the decision being made from any results they achieve over the next few weeks.
No, and I think this is a really important point. I think sometimes prospective students can be worried that if they tell us they've got particular additional needs, that somehow that will make them less welcome in the university, and nothing could be further from the truth. The university has a very good reputation for supporting students with a range of additional needs, and Wellbeing Services here has a confidentiality policy, which means we will not share any private or sensitive information with the rest of the university. The only information that will be shared is with their consent, and it's often less about the nature of their difficulty and more about what would help them to manage in this environment. And that's the information that, with the students' consent, we like to pass on to those who are likely to support them in the academic colleges. But you're absolutely right, Karl. We work very independently, although we're part of the university, and we have a high standard of confidentiality. And the information that's given to us, we do not share with the rest of the university unless the student gives us explicit consent to do so.
Mark, thank you for that fantastic insight. And thank you for listening today. We'll be running further sessions, so please do follow us on Twitter at DiscoverUniEXE for further updates on future sessions. Thank you.
Thank you very much.